So what we lack is not water. What we lack is imagination. There's really no water scarcity for this whole area. It's only a scarcity of financial investment in the right direction. If you want to revive bore wells, the best thing to do is to revive lakes and fill them with treated use water. It's the reason why people are afraid of treated wastewater, because they're exposed to raw sewage, right? So they have never seen the cleaning process. The women said, don't put a pump. We will draw the water, because if you put a pump, the water will go to the apartment and soon the well will go dry and we will be left with nothing.
Is there anything else that the city can do for increasing the conservation of water?
The many things that the city can do, and especially apartments and gated communities.
Hello, I'm your host Ishita Das, and today we are going to talk about local water conservation solutions that could go a long way in making rural and urban areas self sufficient in water and become more climate resilient. In the bustling northern Bangalore suburb, there is a lake which has become a permanent residence for pelicans and painted storks who used to be migrants before. There's a running joke in the community of nature conservationists saying that soon they'll have voting rights, as I believe they should, of course. Uh, and what happened? This lake is the Jackal Lake, and what happened to the Jackal Lake that used to be even 2 years ago has been relegated to a hold all for urban waste. And now it's a shimmering lake which holds rainwater in monsoons and otherwise potable, recycled wastewater at other times, and allowing the healthy ecosystem to survive and thrive, allowing the pelicans and the painted storks to think that this is their permanent home. It turns out this is due to a concerted effort of conservationists, local municipal bodies, and residents of the area who make sure that the lake is now shimmering clean and is always full of potable water. The lake also supports few fishing families, like around 70 or so fishing families. And in turn, the fishing families make sure that there's no plastic waste in the lake, which is a very good give and take for livelihoods and maintenance of the ecosystem. Additionally, the lake just being present there ensures that the shallow wells and aquifers get recharged in the area, which gives water stability to the residents of the area. Our guest is Mr. Vishwanath Srikanthaya, and he's a main player in the regeneration of this Jackal Lake. And he's a civil engineer by training from Mysore University. He did a master's in urban and regional planning from SEP, Ahmedabad. He's the founder of Rainwater Club, and he's the director of Biome Environmental Solutions and the trustee of Biome Environmental Trust. His work over the last 2 decades has led to innovative water management solutions with a unique local first approach that blends cultural understanding as well as engineering solutions in collaboration with local communities. His efforts have demonstrated that even in this time of severe water crisis and scarcity, we can still look into ways of conserving water that can cater to both farming and domestic needs using creative solutions and sources. Welcome to the source then.
Thank you, Ishita.
And my first question is, what made you start the Rainwater Club 2 decades ago?
Well, I was working in the Housing and Urban Development Corporation, a Government of India enterprise, and one of the job requirements was to travel across South India to various villages and small towns to look at housing projects which we were funding. And what I observed as an employee of HUDCO was that these settlements were built, but they were not occupied because there was no water. Many of the houses in rural Andhra Pradesh, for example, or Tamil Nadu, were being used as storehouses for firewood. And this is in the 80s and 90s. And when one inquired, people said, well, the house is good, but there's no water. So what do I do about it? So my inquiry began then to figure out why are settlements facing this water crisis and what can be done by communities and individuals to solve the problem. Apart from the state is supposed to be giving the water, what can individuals and communities do? So therefore, one started the Rainwater Club. The internet was just coming along. So we thought that we'd create a web-based group, which was virtual, which would share knowledge, experiences, and practice and see what could be done to help individuals and communities. That's how the Rainwater Club started.
So, So in Bangalore, the drought and changes in monsoon have lasted for like years. I mean, sometimes they have happened before. So I believe around 1876 and 78 there was a big famine. There was a huge drought because of successive loss of monsoons, and that is when the British decided that Bangalore, as such, should move out of local water resources towards reservoirs. Even and today, what happens is because of a tough year water wise like last year, and it is predicted, there's a new study that came out by ISC and BWSSB that the 80 wards in the outskirts of Bangalore can expect to have very scarce water or reduced groundwater level this year within in the next few weeks. So do you think from the initial move from local water sources to reservoirs is now going back towards increased local water sources again, and wells and other types of local water sources or harvesting as the years have progressed?
So here's the thing. The city of Bangalore goes through its ups and downs with water, as you were pointing out, and it's a function of the population. So what happens is that the population reaches a certain number, and then the existing water source runs out. Yeah? Like even when you were explaining, it was not the British who did it, but the Mysore Maharaja and the Diwan at that point of time, who actually thought of the Hesarghatta water supply project and brought water from a far distance, right? Now, what's happening in the city is that the city is now 14.5 million people. And water is coming from the Kaveri. It's a single source dependency. We will get the equivalent of 2,275 million liters per day once the Kaveri fifth stage is put under implementation. And that implementation is ongoing. That by itself should be sufficient for the population of 14.5 million people. But unfortunately, this water does not reach everybody in terms of the distribution network. So therefore, some people, especially in the periphery of the city, are dependent on deep bore wells, groundwater. It's these people which the ISC and BWSSB report will suggest would face a tough challenge in the months ahead because groundwater is running out. And why is groundwater running out? There are several reasons for that. One of the reasons, of course, is the huge demand we are putting on it. But the second reason is that the supply itself, the lakes which are supposed to be recharging this groundwater, are in a bad condition. Now, if these lakes were protected, desilted, and filled with rainwater during rainy season and treated wastewater in the non-rainy season, they would have the potential to recharge the groundwater and therefore relieve the burden of running out of water of these bore wells. Yeah. So even now, the city has an opportunity to identify these critical lakes and fill it with high quality treated wastewater and therefore resurrect these bore wells and mitigate the crisis to a large extent. Of course, extension of the Kaveri fifth phase is also very important, but there are other reasons why people are not taking connection to the Kaveri fifth phase. But in the meantime, if you want to revive bore wells, the best thing to do is to revive lakes and fill them with treated used water.
Okay. So, is there anything else that the city can do for increasing the conservation of water, like rainwater harvesting? Yeah,
Correct. The many things that the city can do, and especially apartments and gated communities,
yeah.
one of the things is demand management. They should fix water aerators in all the taps, make sure that they have water efficient flushes, showers, and make sure that they are sort of mindful of the use of water and reduce it, right? So it's an attitude as well as backed by technology. The second thing that they have to do as per the law is to put in place rainwater harvesting systems. Now, if the rainwater harvesting systems have not been put in place, citizens should put an effort to make sure that they do it. It may not help them in this summertime, but hopefully we'll get the March and April rains. Usually Bangalore gets that, and May is one of the rainiest months in Bangalore. So if the rainfall pattern follows the tradition and comes in March, April, and May, some amount of the pressure can be relieved by rainwater harvesting. The other thing that people should do is to take a look at the rainwater harvesting structures which have been built beforehand. Are they done correctly? Are they in working condition? What is the maintenance required for them? Make sure that the maintenance effort is put in place so that it's all ready and functional to receive whatever rain that comes to us in the coming days. And the last thing that people can do is that a lot of apartments and gated communities have decentralized wastewater treatment plants, right? They have their own STP. They should make sure that the STPs are running well and that treated wastewater is put to the highest possible use. That is, they should use it for gardening and for flushing, for washing the cars and other things, but also to rejuvenate the nearest lake if it's possible for it to be done. if treated wastewater is also reused and goes to the nearest lake after it satisfies local demand, then it can recharge the groundwater and help the community get their water from the bore wells that they have in their own campus or in the surroundings.
So usually, whenever people hear about recycled water, recycled sewage water, they think that it's not clean. But can you just tell the audience that actually the treatment level purifies the water to what level, and how many things it is actually very useful for, and they shouldn't really think about it as the ick water or something that shouldn't be used.
So that's the reason why people are afraid of treated wastewater, because they're exposed to raw sewage, right? So they have never seen the cleaning process itself. And one wishes that a lot of the sewage treatment plants of the BWSSB, which are doing very well, should be open to the public, and there should be conducted tours to take people to show them what the treatment process is and what the quality of the treated water is. One of the things that institutions don't do is to check this water, this treated wastewater, for drinking water standards. They check it for sewage standards, which needs treatment and then release into the environment. But if they take a look at the drinking water standards, then what we found in Bangalore is that some of the sewage treatment plants, actually, the treated wastewater is good to drink straight away from the wastewater treatment plant itself. But be that as it may, that again still has a yuck factor. But if this water is released into the environment through a wetland, goes to a lake, and the lake then does nature's own treatment, the wetland does nature's own treatment, it filters through the earth. And so therefore the earth filtration adds to the treatment
Yeah,
process. And then you pick it up in dug wells or filter bore wells, as they're called, shallow bore wells, or even deep bore wells. Then you have distanced the water from the STP, right? Then you check the water quality, put in place a water treatment plant to take care of all the contaminants, if there be any. Usually the only contaminant that there is E. coli and fecal coliform bacteria, which can easily be treated, treat the water and reuse it. There is one such apartment in Bangalore called TZ, which actually blends it with groundwater and drinks it. Now, this is near Vartur, in the part of the city. So you must have a faith and belief in science. You must have a trust in the treatment process. And if possible, you must allow nature to do the intermediation, and then you can reuse it.
that sounds great. I think that is really useful to know, just to be, clear about how this process is actually working, and it works because of the science behind it. And so now we have like not now, we've had the technology for cleaning water for years, and that's like high tech. You're also really into low tech and traditional solutions to problems, especially like water conservation. So you started the Million Wells program, in which the traditional well diggers have been employed to revive the older wells. And how successful and whereabouts are these wells being used, and how successful has that been?
So let me correct you, Shita. They're not being employed. I don't employ them. They're all perfect entrepreneurs on their own right. What had happened was, these people from the mudwonder community who had this knowledge of the earth and of wells and water and soil profiles, and had traditionally been digging them. Their fathers, their grandparents had dug these wells. So they know in which locality of Bangalore, what is the level of water, what is the quality of water, right? That is a institutional memory with them. There's a memory with this institution called the Manwandar community. Now, if a city is in crisis, usually we think of solutions as large-scale infrastructure. But our thinking was, can it also be a livelihoods-based solution? Can this community get more livelihood, earn a decent living so that they're able to educate their children better, and then the children make a choice of what they want to do? So therefore, how do we create more employment which valorizes their knowledge for the city? So we say water security for Bangalore through the Million Wells, which provides livelihoods for the Manwandar community. Now, this community has identified many dug wells which had been dumped with garbage. For example, in one of the largest slums in Bangalore called Devaljivanhalli. For example, in Kaban Park, Lalbagh, many such places, next to lakes, for example, in Anjanapura and Avalahalli. And they've cleaned these wells. And once these wells have been cleaned, it's been found that the water can absolutely be used for non-potable purpose, washing your clothes, washing the dishes, and so on. So communities pick it up and use it for that purpose. Simultaneously, there's a law which says that you have to do rainwater harvesting for every building in Bangalore. And as part of the law, there's a mandate for you to dig a recharge well. A recharge well takes rooftop rainwater, filters it, and pushes it into the aquifer. So this community now knows where to make these recharge wells, how deep to make it, and how to make sure that all the water, which is clean, filtered, can go into the earth and revive the aquifers. So in their counting, in my discussions with them, they would have dug about 300,000 such recharge wells in the city of Bangalore and its peripheries, right? So it's a huge number. But the thing is that we still need more work for them. There are more than 750 families who are dependent on the work of these well diggers, and they're more than happy to do these wells for you, of course, for a fee. You would be in compliance with the law. You would also make sure that the city gets more groundwater security and your borewells don't run dry. So if this compact and partnership between citizens and the well diggers comes together even more strongly, then we would have good water security for Bangalore.
That's a really good way to go forward. So, in these, is there a map for these 300,000 wells that?
So we've deliberately not worked on digitalizing or putting the data, because what happens is these well diggers work in different areas, right? So they have their turf, they have their locality to work on. So what we've done is we put sort of a sample set of wells on the map to say, okay, these are the areas where the wells are working quite nicely. And so that's available on our website, biometrust.org. And one can take a look at it. One
Yeah.
of the things is that you can be one in a million. If you dig a recharge well, you're one in a million, right? Because we are building a million wells. So
Yes.
that's the sort of
Okay.
messaging we do, that everybody can participate. And all it needs is a 3 feet diameter space. And there you can dig a 20 feet or a 30 feet recharge well and make sure that you're putting all the water into the ground.
So these recharge wells are the shallow wells for
Yeah,
recharging.
they're all shallow wells. They're made
Yeah.
out of precast concrete rings. They're only 2, 3, or 4 feet usually in diameter and usually 20 to 30 feet deep. And they have a safety grill on top so that there's no accident that happens because of that.
Is there like this is just for in general information? So because of the concretization of Bangalore, is there a problem with recharging the groundwater? Is that, and that's what everybody that I have talked to has ever told me. Is that the main reason
Yeah. And
for?
that's one of the
Yeah.
major reasons. You see, what's happening as a city gets built up and it becomes urban, then you put a plot, right? On a plot, you build a house, or in a community, you build an apartment, right? And so there, the whole thing becomes very hard surface. Then you build roads, and then you build stormwater drains, which are linked to these roads, which are also concretized, right? So there's hardly any space for water to percolate into the aquifer. Now, if everybody becomes responsible for giving some space on their small house, large community, large apartment, everybody should devote 5% of the land for water to percolate. And that's the rule, that's the way that we think that everybody can participate in this solution when the city is concretizing. Just give 5% of your plot area, even less than that, just 3 square feet. And you'll be able to make sure that you're not flooding the city, but you're putting the water back into the aquifer for it to be used later.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that people can do when they are deciding to build their house. And what about people who are like looking for a place to stay, or build a new house, or whether or not they should pay for the villa that some plotted development is making. What can they look for when they are?
Buyers and consumers have a strong weapon in the marketplace. If they demand from the builder that house or the apartment that they buy has a good rainwater harvesting system which is functional, and a good wastewater treatment plant which is functional, then it puts pressure on the builders and the developers to make sure that they adhere to these norms, right? More and more builders are doing a very good job. There's a
Okay.
lot of knowledge that has to go, because some people think that they've done rainwater harvesting by just digging a small 8 feet pit and then they fill it up with gravel and sand, right? Then it gets blocked and it doesn't do anything at all. It's out of ignorance that they're doing it. They want to comply to the law, but they don't know exactly how it's to be done. If you're able to communicate to them that it should be designed properly with a slug test and be scientific, then more and more people will do the right thing, right? But it starts from the consumer becoming aware of the fact that this is necessary and demanding that it be a right to them. If you're paying 1 crore or 2 crores or 3 crores for a flat or a villa,
Yeah.
you better well demand that you get all the infrastructure services apart from the building itself.
Like we've talked about the revival of lakes, and I mentioned that I'm right across the Putanelli Lake in JP Nagar. There are what 186 lakes that are there in Bangalore that are functional. So how many of them do you think are more can be like revived and used by the communities as a recharging outlet?
So Bangalore is running a very unique program. They will have 61 wastewater treatment plants of the BWSSB by the end of this year or by the end of next year, right? When all of them are completed and if the funds come through. That means there'll be enormous amount of treated wastewater available for use, right? One of the things that the BWSSB will do is to fill the lakes within the city with treated wastewater, like they're already doing in Jakkur, or they're doing it in Puttenhalli in the north, or Agara and many other lakes. 30 lakes are being filled with treated used water. Hopefully, of the 186 lakes, all of them will start to receive treated used water of a high quality. It doesn't deteriorate the water quality of the lake, but actually improves it. But it's also filling 900 lakes across in the drought-prone, climate change-affected districts of Kolar, Chikkaballapur, Ramnagaram, Anekal, and other places. This is the world's second largest program of its kind, where treated wastewater from a city actually fills lakes in rural hinterlands, apart from the urban lakes within the city. And therefore, when it recharges the aquifer, it provides water security to farmers. Once farmers have water security, the farmers of Kolar and Chikkaballapur are really hardworking and very good farmers. They know the soil very well. They're only deprived of water for them to be increasing produce. Now, if they increase the produce, if they grow good quality grains, vegetables, and fruits, that can come back to the city and the city will have food security. So, in eras of climate change, we have to reimagine how metropolises and cities work, strike a strong partnership within itself and outside with the rural hinterland to support agriculture and therefore get supported themselves. It's called the circular economy in some places. And this is what Bangalore is aiming to become. And so this is a great model to work on. We have to do more work in terms of the treated wastewater. We have to do more work in terms of filling more lakes. But if we keep an eye on it and make sure that the treatment is of a high quality, this is the potential and possibility.
And how is the treated wastewater, the pipelines, etc., that will take it out to the outskirts, Chikkamagalur and everywhere, is are already in place, or how will
Yeah,
that
yeah,
work?
Chikkaballapur, not Chikkamagalur. Chikkamagalur is
Chikkaballapur,
very far
sorry.
away. Chikkaballapur. So that's called the HN Valley project. Already 65 lakes are being filled in Chikkaballapur. Already about 147 lakes are being filled in Kolar. So totally about 300 lakes are being filled in various parts. So these are
Oh,
pipelines which run from the sewage treatment plant. Through pipes, they go to one lake. From the lake, it cascades down by gravity and fills the fifth or sixth lake. Again, it's pumped up to the ridge line, and then gravity takes it down to more lakes. So there's a combination of pumping and gravity which helps these lakes become full, right?
that sounds like a really well thought out and well planned project.
So
And
it's done by the Bangalore Water Supply Sewerage Board, which has done the treatment, and the minor irrigation department of the government of Karnataka, which has treated it like a lift irrigation project and is taking the water and filling the lakes. Then the lakes are taken care of by the Gram Panchayats and Zilla Panchayats, the minor irrigation department itself, if it's part of the lake system. And so therefore, there's a decentralized responsibility. There's still more work to be done to make sure that it becomes even more proper as things go along, but it has the potential to be able to secure water or get water security for not only the metropolis, but also the hinterland.
then that in that way, there's food security and water security and
And livelihood
employment
security.
security.
Livelihood
Yeah, and
security,
livelihood.
like correct, like the wells provide livelihood security to the well diggers within the city, treated
Yeah.
wastewater provides livelihood security to farmers and fishers because all these lakes can be used for fishing too, right? So therefore, again, you're taking a livelihoods approach to water management. And then again, these lakes can be designed with wetlands and islands to become bird biodiversity hotspots, right? So you can imagine 1,000 Rangantittus, as we call it. Rangantittu is one of the most famous bird sanctuaries near Bangalore. So you can actually design 1,100 Rangantittus if we so want. So what we lack is not water. What we lack is imagination and goals and the finances to back that imagination and goals. If we just put our act together, there's really no water scarcity for this whole area. It's only a scarcity of financial investment in the right direction.
That sounds amazing. Most of the time, whenever you read about these things, the groundwater level is critically low and all of that. Nobody ever has, and you're one of the first people and that I've read about who said that we can be water sufficient. We just need creative solutions. We already have enough water, even with the climate change, increase in monsoons, which is what is expected of at least for the next few years with the change in climate. We can actually harvest that water and use it in ways that will increase water stability, and now that you mentioned with farmer livelihood and food security as well. So that seems like one of the most positive outlooks I've come across, because most of the time people are either unaware or really pessimistic about the future of
Yeah,
the
so
planet.
we know what needs to be done, right? So we identified the problems and all that. So it doesn't mean that it's not that we don't take responsibility. What I'm calling for is more responsibility. Let's say, for example, the city of Bangalore has to take responsibility for the river Kaveri, not just obsess about its own lakes, the 186 lakes that you talk about, but because every tap in Bangalore brings Mother Kaveri to our homes. So therefore, it's our responsibility that the forests of Wayanad, Coorg, Chikkaballapur, and Hassan are protected so that the rivers run free and are able to come to these four dams which bring water to our city. We take only 11% of Karnataka's allocation of Kaveri waters, right? And we support 40% of Karnataka in the Kaveri basin. And after taking that 11% of Kaveri waters, it's not that we consume all of it. We add groundwater to it, convert it to treated wastewater, and have the opportunity of actually sending more water than what we consume from the Kaveri to fill the lakes of Kolar and Chikkaballapur. So Bangalore can be a water and fertilizer factory. It can be one which is responsible for the river basin itself and takes care of the river itself, right? It has to take more responsibility for industrial wastewater. There's a lot of industrial pollution happening in certain pockets of the city, which needs spectacular attention, and we need to make sure that we do it. It needs water pricing. See, with water pricing, if we release water back to nature in the same quantity and quality at which we took it from the river, which technology can provide, there is no scarcity of water in the system and there's no pollution. Now, if we are able to identify the true ecological price for water and pay that price and demand from our institutions action, then there's no shortage of water resource at all. So all these are possibilities. Many institutions are involved, and we have to think of what's called an integrated urban water management approach. And at the heart of it is universal connection. It means some water for all, not all water for some. Especially the poor pay the highest price for water. It should be the poor who should have the first right on the Kaveri. The rich should do rainwater harvesting, the rich should recharge aquifers, and the rich should recycle treated wastewater. The poor should have the first access to piped water supply on a daily basis, right? They shouldn't be getting water once in 3 days or once in 5 days or once in 7 days. Actually, they should be getting it 24/7, potable water. It will save them a lot of money, effort, and time, and so therefore they can be better productive with it and take care of their health better. All these are goals that we have to set for ourselves, and it will require individual action, community action, and state action.
So, currently, what kind of laws prevent the industries to leave out their polluted water and drain it into the lakes or the rivers?
So there's already the Water and Air Pollution Act, which prevents industries to do it. It's a question of enforcement that
Yeah,
the State
is it
Pollution Control
enforced?
Board and the regulators must make sure that this takes place, but also facilitate these industries with common effluent treatment plants so that they are able to take care of the effluent and treat it to the quality required, right? So it's a combination of legal measures and facilitation measures which should work together to make sure that this pollution doesn't occur. And that's a very critical component of the city's pollution as well as water security.
And it's been worked on, as in the enforcement and the common.
It needs a lot more working on. That's the biggest problem we have. Domestic sewage is not as big a problem as
Okay,
industrial effluents, and we need a lot more work there to happen.
all right. So that's something to really focus on for policymakers and other
Correct,
planners like you.
correct,
Nice.
correct.
That's good. There was an interesting thing I read about you suggesting that the Bane of Bangalore, the Namma metro construction, the elevated pillars or the highways could be used as a way for rainwater harvesting. You clearly saw an urban issue, or in more than one way, because of the construction and because of everything else it does. And you also looked at it in the way of solving a problem, of acting towards it. So how do you always, like, whenever you're in a city, you look at things, so this is a problem which could also be the solution every time you are taking a walk in the city, you are
So
driving?
we live in an era of, as you pointed out, design thinking, where we need to bring multidisciplinarity to solutions, right? A solution for transport need not only be a solution for transport, it can be a solution for many things. So the metro has this advantage that it's electric driven. So therefore, up on the flyover where the metro runs, the rainwater that falls has no pollution. There's no oil, petrol, or grease. It's absolutely clear water. What we are doing is we're taking that water and dumping it on the streets below. Now, if we are able to harvest it, so we are putting it to productive use, right? So the metro is doing it in a particular stretch on MG Road. It needs to expand and make sure that it does in all the stretches. Similarly, we are planning to dig a tunnel for traffic and transport from Hebal to Sixth Board, right? Now, the tunnel, which will be about 80 to 100 feet below the ground, will also get water from the aquifers. So the tunnel can not only be a transportation aqueduct, but it also can be a water aqueduct, where you take the water, check its quality, treat it, and supply it to the city, right? So again, what we need as a city is systems thinking and design thinking, which will marry many different facets of a particular idea.
So, and how many people like you or organizations like you do you think are working towards this goal? Is there
There are many people. It's only a question of us coming together, a lot more people coming together, getting into a dialogue with institutions, and making sure that we facilitate each other in getting the solutions on the ground rather than simply throwing stones at the caravan. What I say is give the camel some water to drink, right? All of us together, so that the caravan moves faster and speedier to its journey in a much more better fashion. I mean, throwing stones at a caravan is easy. What does it achieve? It doesn't achieve much. So therefore, that's the way we need to look as a community.
that makes real good sense, and I was very impressed with the idea of rainwater harvesting off of the metro lights. So my
Yeah,
final
there's
question
many
to you
things.
is, yeah, my final questions to you is, you have worked with like the traditional well diggers, and you work with developers and the government, and they are all direct stakeholders, either for livelihood or for because that's their job, like the government has to supply water to the people. What about people who are sort of impervious to the problem? Like they either are too rich, or they could be people who don't have the time, like too poor. How do you get across your message across to those people? Have you found a way to tap into their empathy or their better sense, let's say?
No, so I'm not sort of wasting my time on those who are not wanting to listen to ideas, right? So it's not my job to be persuading anybody. But in this city, in this metropolis, let's say 1% of the people are interested in the environmental issues and issues of social justice, right? That's 1.45 million. So that's already a huge number. If you're able to cater to that, what we think we do in Biome Trust is to look at innovative ideas and trigger that idea itself. It's not our job to do it at scale. That's not what we are geared for. That's not possible for us. So we then do a whole act of persuasion where we bring as many people as possible and groups as possible to say, hey, this is an idea. What do you think about it? If you think it works well, pick it up and let's run with it. You run with it, no problem at all. So, for example, the million wells has been adopted by many institutions, and they call it their own. Some call it the billion drops, some call it something else, and they're doing recharge wells and they're taking it. God bless. Go ahead and replicate it and scale it up, right? It's not that I own proprietary knowledge on that or have an intellectual property right. That's not the game. That's not the name of the game. So we've done a project in Devanhalli with the town municipal council where we worked with other NGOs who have revived the lakes. We have revived wells, and we're supplying Devanhalli town with the help of the town municipal council and many other funders, Rotary among them, Kalzis among them, and so on and so forth. So many partners, domestic water supply, which will reach 1 million liters per day, right? Now, this is a project which has been liked by the government of Karnataka. And just today, my colleague was discussing it with the minister there. And the minister was so excited about it. He was telling his engineers, go take a look at it and you see where it can be replicated. And an MLA was there who's saying, hey, please do it in my constituency, bring it to my constituency. So there are enough and more people who want this done. And I don't have the time and energy to be looking at people who think it's a bad idea or it's not workable. They will come on board gradually, and it's
Eventually, huh?
a question of
Eventually.
time.
Yeah, yeah, it's good to know the numbers of, it's a little difficult for me personally to like imagine how many people are actually interested. I'm glad you told me it's in millions. So I totally, I can see how that is a very good start, and it'll, branch out from there and reach other people as required.
Working with the community brings a huge amount of knowledge and information and good partners. In a particular case, there were 3 wells which we revived in the north of Bangalore, where the women said, don't put a pump. We will draw the water, because if you put a pump, the water will go to the apartment and soon the well will go dry and we will be left with nothing. But if we go to the well and draw water in our buckets, we just need 4 buckets a day. This well will last us throughout summertime and we'll have enough water for ourselves. So something like 50 to 75 families are drawing water and are self-sufficient. Even when Bangalore went through the crisis in 2023 and there was no water at all for a long time, these wells had water at 10 feet. So what happens is when you listen to people and their wisdom and their lived experience and work with them to help sort their problem out, then there are solutions that emerge, right? So which is something fantastic. We learned the art of something called filter bore wells from a father and son duo who came from Tamil Nadu and who dig what are called filter bore wells, shallow bore wells, which is a particular variety. We're very happy to use our privilege of knowledge to see where that can go. But our responsibility always is to get them more work. So when they get more work, they get a livelihood, but the city and town gets a solution.
That's amazing. I think that's one of the most interesting stories I've ever heard because every time you learn something from the community, it's just so gratifying in a way. I mean, even in forest communities and all, which I'm a little bit more familiar with, how they deal with daily solutions. It's a very gratifying and educating experience, and it adds to the wisdom that we can all collect together. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure, Rishita.
Yes, thank you.